Sproul, and in the spring of 2023, I read The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. This book takes place in Swindon, England, and it centers around a 15-year-old boy named Christopher John Francis Boone, and he discovers a dead dog, and he wants to find out what happened to this dog and who's the perpetrator of this crime. Christopher is autistic, and his thought processes and what goes on in his mind is a main feature of the story, which is what I think makes it so unique and interesting. He says things like, "I think I would make a very good astronaut. To be a good astronaut, you have to be intelligent, and I am intelligent. You also have to understand how machines work, and I'm good at understanding how machines work. You also have to be someone who would like being on their own tiny spacecraft thousands and thousands of miles away." The way Christopher articulates himself is really clear and concise, and he thinks about things very logically and how things are supposed to be a certain way, and when they're not, he questions that, and it bothers him. I think the way that Mark Haddon characterizes Christopher really breaks down kind of the nuances of autism and the generalizations and stereotypes of autistic people, and I think that is the principal authorial intention, not only to tell the crazy story of Christopher and what he went through, and just family struggles, but it's really just kind of a statement against what people may think of autistic people when they don't really have all the knowledge that they should. I think this book will stand the test of time because it's just, autism is something that occurs. It's not gonna go away. I don't believe there's a cure on its way or anything. So I think that people's awareness should definitely be heightened to it because, making assumptions about people with autism when it really is such a large spectrum is not good for society. Other themes that were pretty prevalent in the story was the strength of family, honesty and trust, and courage. However, it has received criticism saying that it normalizes the abuse of autistic people and that they're immune to it because they don't process things as neurotypical people do. And some reviews have said that this is a very harmful topic and something that people should be warned of before reading the book. So Elizabeth Bartmus from Disability in Kidlit says, "By showing Christopher as not noticing or responding to insults and abuse, he suggests that being cruel to autistic people isn't that bad." So she really thinks that there are better ways to portray it and to humanize autistic people, and she argues that Mark Haddon kind of dehumanizes them in this book. I do see where this person is coming from in their criticism, but I more ally with Sarah Haben from the Persephone magazine. She says, "As far as realistic portrayals and the autism spectrum go, I think it might be impossible to write a character who satisfies every person who has experience with those different disorders. While one person might have a kid or a friend who is very sensitive to touch and certain visuals, another person might have a completely unrelated set of difficulties." She's more sympathetic to the author, which I'm always more leaning towards sympathy to the author because unless it was his outright intention to offend those with autism, I don't think that he portrayed them in a negative light. However, I do understand the point of view that kind of desensitizes the main character to all the things that happen in his life. He does, experience, or he doesn't experience the murder of a dead dog, but he does see a dog with a pitchfork stuck in it, and he, finds out that his father has been lying about the status of his mother, and it kind of portrays him to see everything very analytically, which I'm sure to a degree Christopher does feel like there are facts and there are just ways things are, but the desensitization of his character to what goes on is understandably harmful to autistic people. For example, in the book it says, "But mother was cremated. This means that she was put into a coffin and burned and ground up and turned into ash and smoke. I do not know what happens to the ash, and I couldn't ask at the crematorium because I didn't go to the funeral." So here, Christopher doesn't really display any emotion towards the supposed death of his mother, and so that can be harmful. The book has been challenged and banned in some schools, primarily due to the language of the book, but they don't mention anything about the portrayal of autistic people as a primary reason why it has been banned in schools. I was actually inspired to read this book based on the fact that Eastern did a performance of this book, and I really enjoyed the performance, so I went on to read it, and I think that Eastern portrayed it well. I think that it was a well-written book, and if you take it for the story that it is, then I think you'd enjoy it. There were several moments that I really liked in the book, such as when Christopher said, "This is because I do not always do what I'm told, and this is because when people tell you what to do, it is usually confusing and does not make sense." So you can see here that Christopher is a relatable character, and, you know, despite people having gripes with how he's portrayed, he does have personality, and he is funny, and he does, have a mind of his own. I think the criticism from Elizabeth Bartmus from Disability in Kidlit is a bit harsh, as she says that Christopher is portrayed as elitist, violent, lacking empathy. It doesn't give an inexperienced reader any sense of how an autistic person could be an interesting conversation partner or friend or a kind person. And I really disagree with that, because there are a lot of moments in this book where Christopher shows his personality, and there might be instances where he doesn't, but that doesn't mean that it's not present. He might just choose not to express it in that book. I liked reading this book. I think it was a really good experience because although, yes, Christopher does express himself in kind of a cut and dry way, he does have a personality, and I think that that's misunderstood by the critic of this book. But while reading the book, you just get the feeling that Christopher is really passionate about certain things, such as the murder mystery novel that he's writing that is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. And so I think that if you read in between the lines and not just what exactly Christopher says, but his actions and the way he thinks about things, I think you kind of get a good insight as to maybe not autistic people as a whole, but at least this one character's personality, and I really enjoyed that about this book, and I would recommend it. So, yeah, thank you.